fullback with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the call. Pyle trying to make his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort.
Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fantasy Fullback Dive. I'm saying this week's episode like we're only doing one a week. Today's episode of the Fantasy Fullback Dive brought to you by the good people at the Road Street Journal, feeding and beating and breeding Fantasy Wolves. We're your lead blocker. We're paving your way to fantasy glory, fantasy excellence, fantasy titles, any other fantasy-related superlative you want to throw in there. I, of course, am your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself, climbing the ladder to be the most accurate fantasy guy out there. I'm going to ask him to, blow a little smoke up his own ass in a minute and tell you guys what's going on with that. But we're switching things up a little bit. This is usually the time where we do our fantasy preview week. We talk about who we're higher on or who the Wolf's higher on, lower on, who he's got some Hail Marys for. You guys always love that. And we hit the mailbag. We're actually going to switch it up. The Wolf wanted to throw a curveball. We're going to do some strength of schedule, some guys that you should look at that maybe have an easy way the rest of the way in, especially concentrating on the playoffs at every position. All right, there's my long-winded intro. Wolf, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Absolutely. And indeed, blow some smoke up my ass. Was thrilled to wake up at, middle of the school day, see top 5 right now in the rankings competition.
Good
Unbelievable.
For you.
First year in and top 5. I'm loving it. Like, obviously, I want to be humble. I'm surrounded by some absolute beasts in the industry. Some guys I've had on the podcast too, like Pat Fitzmaurice, the football girl. He's unbelievable. He's number 1. He's crushing it. Had him on the show this summer, and what a great guy too. So it's unbelievable what he's doing. It's great competition. It's just nice to not necessarily validating, but just like awesome to be in this company, and also of course to be in the top 5 certainly doesn't hurt. And it introduced us to some new followers and things of that nature. So really exciting stuff. Validating in the sense of all the work we put in to see it actually paying off too, and then top 5 accuracy. I'm thrilled, man. So that was pumped up number 1, and pump up number 2 is, as you mentioned, new show this week because trade deadlines are about to hit, and this is kind of your last ditch effort here as fantasy owners to make that push. Of course, there'll be 1 or 2 waiver wire heroes to take over and dominate down stretch runs, but really trades, this is the one last big swing roster construction move you can make in order to change your fantasy fortunes. One of the biggest factors going into that, we've already talked a lot about expected fantasy points. We love that. A great article by Jackson Barrett every single week on our site. Great report too, the stats that go with it all, but also strength of schedule, knowing the easiest rest of season, but also the easiest playoffs too. If you're in win now mode, how can you gear up more for weeks 14 through 16? We're going to cover all that position by position, give you the easiest 5 names, hardest 5 names, both for rest of season, both for playoffs. So I'm thrilled to dive in deep with this. I think it's going to be a really useful show. And if you agree and you're out there watching and you don't mind giving us a thumbs up, that would mean the world to us, get us out to more people, help more Wolves get fed and bred. And of course, we will always wrap up with our mailbag, which has gotten to record levels these last few weeks, hour-long mailbags. And I love it. I'm ready to talk fantasy all day, but it's great. So we will, of course, hit all your questions and all that good stuff towards the end of the broadcast.
Yeah. So anyway, you said not exactly validation when you were talking about that. I kind of think it's validating.
Yeah.
I mean, and all the other stuff you said too. And you are surrounded by, giants of the industry, of which eventually you/we are going to join them. I'm pretty convinced. How many people are in this thing that you're 4th in right now?
It's I want to say at least 250.
It's a lot of
big
people.
grade, a lot of experts. Yeah, so it is extremely exciting to be one of the tops. And again, among some of these names that you see is just crazy. So I never thought, my first year in it. Obviously not our first year doing the site, but only a few years in, and now my first year in the competition. It's amazing. It really is a great feeling. Now I just got to defend the turf, stay top 5, and hopefully keep on that climb, baby. It's been a great run, though. Really thrilled about it.
We should maybe drive by whoever number 3's house is late at night with our interior lights on really slowly at 3 a.m. Just
howl outside their windows.
Just let them know we're there. Let them know. Let them know we're aware of the situation. We're not
exactly. What's that weird howling going outside my window? It's certainly not an animal. No. It sounds like a human imitating one. Like, what is
1977 Impalas driving by at like 6 miles an hour. The one with no hubcaps.
Exactly.
Yeah. The Roto Street Journal. We should get a Roto Street Journal mobile at some point. At some point, we got to buy a car and paint it in RSJ colors, put the logo on it, and just kind of cruise it around town.
Would be beautiful stuff.
That would be great. Anyway, we'll call that for when we move into an office building. That might be one of our first purchases. Let's get down into the quarterback market, and let's talk about who's got an easy rest of the season schedule. I'm going to read you 5 guys. Or 5 teams, we should say. I mean, and some of these have obvious quarterback starters, of course. The interesting thing about these lists is that you're not going to see these and automatically be like, oh, I need a piece of that. This is this is more information, and you're going to see why as soon as I read this list. Easiest schedule the rest of the way for quarterbacks is the dynamic duo from Chicago of Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. You say to yourself, easiest schedule, man, I want some of that. Now, you probably still don't.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe if you're waiver streaming something like that and Ty goes to one of these guys in that situation. Number 2, Brady and the Bucks. Number 3, Locke and the Broncos. Number 4, Philly and Wentz. Number 5, the Giants and Daniel Jones. Other than Brady, not that many of those that exciting. Maybe Philly. I don't know. I kind of think Carson Wentz might suck.
Yeah, really, there's nobody that intriguing on this list, which is unfortunate because you'd love to see it. And when we go in the hard list, it's
you want everybody. You want them all.
Everybody on the hard list. And of course, there's so many factors that go into it in the sense of just because these guys are on the hard list, it's so obvious, but just goes without saying. Because Rodgers is the hardest schedule doesn't mean you're going to be swapping him for like Nick Foles because he has the easiest ever. There's some common sense that goes into this. This is certainly not like the end all be all just because this guy has an easier hard schedule. We have to overreact, but it can inform our buy lows, sell highs. And honestly, in 2 QB leagues, super flex leagues, Foles and or I'd rather it be Trubisky because he at least can run a little bit. Some of these guys are still going to be relevant, and even if they're on your waiver wires right now. You mentioned Brady, obviously the top guy on this list, and also intriguing because he came off that complete Sunday night dud this week. I think 6 fantasy points.
I know that this isn't on the agenda, but we're going to have to talk about this at some point.
That was just an absolute smashing. Ridiculous. Never seen Brady get his just complete ass beat like that. At least it
like he was far older than 43 in that game.
Seriously, I don't know what the fuck happened because even when he'd go down 28-0 as a Pats fan. I remember a 49ers game.
You were like, that's all right. We're fine. We'll be okay. This is at least going to be a competitive game. No.
Right. Exactly. I mean, talk about the freaking Super Bowl, right? Against the Falcons, right? So I was shocked to see it just continue.
We both called the Bucks on the show 5 minutes before the game.
Yeah, exactly. Good prediction. I think everybody was, though. The Sunday night crew had all Bucks predictions. Nobody saw that coming. But that's all leading to the fact that Brady is not in his owner's good graces right now. Maybe they've ignored right now that his schedule is a complete cakewalk moving forward, in which case you have to capitalize because we're going to talk about the easiest playoff schedules too. Brady's right up there with that as well. And he just gets, again, the pure green light matchups. Only Foles has an easier matchup. So if his owner, I've seen a lot of leagues where his own, Brady's on the bench now because of that game. Maybe because the quarterback is deep. So he could be had, I bet, for nothing too expensive. Again, because quarterback is such a deep position, 2 quarterback leagues would be different. He'd be the guy that I would be hammering hard to get after right now. Just to tell you the matchups that he has coming up. We have the Carolina Panthers and Rams. Nothing too special there. Those are both red matchups. Kansas City, points factory game script there. Bye week in week 13. It's really the playoffs when he gets Minnesota. I like buying low on Brown. I think he makes total sense from this list. Otherwise, you mentioned Wentz is he's had some pretty big days, but he also has had some pretty horrible days, like the Giants on Sunday Night Football. Something about Sunday Night Football, right? These last few games.
It's kind of, he seems like he's fallen into the category. His fantasy numbers aren't terrible. He's right, but he seems like he falls into that category. So you obviously saw the Patriots Jets game, which I mean, as a Patriots and Brady fan, this must have been a difficult week for you to kind of digest. So I ended up winning my game by 1 point on the Patriots defense against the Jets. I mean, I thought I'd get like 15. I got 2, and that's exactly what I needed to win. So it was touch and go for a while. But I remember at one point, I have a buddy who's a Cam Newton fan from the Carolina days. And I remember I was watching Newton the whole, first half, maybe going up to the third quarter. And I mean, he just looked terrible. He looked like he didn't know how to pass the football. Looked awful. And then you saw his stat line. He was like 17 for 18.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of like we talked about before. I know what I saw.
Yeah.
I know what I saw. And with Wentz, it's the same thing. He might be putting up some fantasy numbers, but when I'm just watching him and I don't know the numbers, it doesn't look good to me.
No.
Same with you?
Indeed, but at the end of the day,
right? But then he gets 25 fantasy points. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I don't get my fantasy points because of the quality of the numbers. The numbers are just the numbers, baby. And Foles, I mean, Wentz's have been pretty solid. The beginning games, he looked awful.
Yeah.
Again, you said he's looked pretty awful for stretches of every single game this year. But after those first 2 games, 24, 22, 19, 29, 29, and then 11, this dud against Dallas on Sunday Night Football, which probably left a bad taste in people's mouths. I've seen him on a lot of waiver wire. Obviously, at this point, pickups are pretty much done, but he might still be out there.
Yeah,
he gets a cakewalk, and we've seen him put up good numbers. Now all his weapons are finally out there, other than Ertz. But is Ertz really a fucking weapon at this point? No, not at all.
I dropped him weeks ago.
As you should have, right. So we got Miles Sanders back this week. Jalen Reagor made a decent impression in his first game. Goddard can get his legs under him. I'm really excited about Wentz with a full weapons cabinet against some of these pathetic defenses coming forward. I think Brady obviously number 1, Wentz number 2, but Drew Lock, I will say out there in 15, only 15% owned entering this week. I know now it's about like 30% because a lot of bye week fill-ins for Mahomes and these guys that are off, but he also gets a cakewalk schedule after going 21 and 30 fantasy points his last couple games. Gets the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Saints, all 3 of them bottom 15 for points allowed against quarterbacks. Then he gets Kansas City, a good secondary, but still points need to happen against Kansas City. Entering the playoffs, he gets Carolina, Buffalo, and the Chargers. Carolina's been a surprisingly good pass D, but other than that, those other 2, both bottom 15 matchups too. So between, I would say, Foles, chuck out, doesn't matter unless you're in a really deep super flex league. Daniel Jones, chuck out, doesn't matter, again, unless you're in a really, really deep league. But then Locke, Wentz, Brady, in kind of like that 3-2-1 order right there, are somewhat intrigued because of how easy these schedules are.
All right, well, let's look real quick at rest of season hard because I'm about to bust out an all-star team for you. Or do you want to go right to the playoff schedule?
No, we'll go. We could go. Let's go easy first. Let's wrap up.
Okay, all right. Well, the easy playoffs. I mean, we touched on this. We don't have to go back to this, but Brady, not only is he easy the rest of the way in the season. I mean, he's number 1 in the playoffs. Then that's followed by Justin Herbert. That's an intriguing one. This guy, I believe he's the QB8 on the year, or at least since he's been playing. Then Foles again. Then you got Mahomes. Jeez, no one's getting rid of him if they've already got him. So hopefully you're not playing him. And then Jared Goff rounds out the top 5. To me, the one that really jumps out there is Herbert because Brady we've already touched on. Mahomes is Mahomes. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if he had the hardest schedule. You'd still be rolling him out there.
Yeah.
And Herbert's an intriguing guy. You could see him maybe carrying some teams to a title.
100%. I mean, he's been an absolute monster. I do want to look up exactly what quarterback he is since he took over. And in particular, since there was a Carolina game that wasn't great. And then since then, from week 4 on, 24, 27, 38, 23, 23 fantasy points. Hasn't been outside the top 12 in any of those. It has been top 3 in 3 of those 5 games. I mean, the guy is absolutely balling, and his weapons are getting healthier. At some point, maybe for those fantasy playoffs, we get Austin Eckler back, which only helps him, especially because Eckler's maybe the premier receiving back in the league. The schedule, Atlanta in week 14. I mean, you can just pen in Justin Herbert for 40 points right there. Atlanta, Drew Lock just scored 30-something against them. So Herbert's going to do the same. Then the Raiders, again, not a great team at all in the secondary. And then Denver, who's bottom 8 against the pass too. So not a single bad matchup for Herbert. And if you own him, you're probably not trading him. But I've also seen, because he was a waiver wire pickup, he's on a lot of benches on teams. The team in my league, for example, has Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert. He's never going to play Justin Herbert So maybe you could pry him away for like a low end wide receiver 2 or something of that nature. And maybe not. Maybe there's like, I'd rather you not have him than give him up for nothing. But you can get Justin Herbert depending on your league, depending on who ended up picking him up. There's definitely a scenario where he could come for much cheaper than the production you're going to get in the playoffs. So I love him. Obviously, we mentioned Brady. And then, of course, Mahomes, I just thought was worth noting because he's of course, going to be just doing his freaking thing no matter what. But he gets Atlanta. Anybody against Atlanta is always incredible. His week 14, let me pull up his schedule real quick. I know his week 14 wasn't that juicy. It's here it is. No, never mind. So Miami, nothing bad about that. Then New Orleans, bottom 8, shootout style game, and then Atlanta in your championship. So if you make your championship with Mahomes, and if you're facing Mahomes, God bless you, against Atlanta in week 16, do whatever. There's a few players on this list that are like, do whatever you have to do to go get them. Mahomes would be that for the quarterback position. If there's a way you can sell the farm and go get Mahomes, you do that.
So just to clarify real quick, I looked up Herbert's stats while you were talking. He is the QB8, but that's generally tabulated by total points. As we know, he didn't play the first week. So if you're talking average points per game, he's
Absolutely.
5th. He's 5th. And one of those guys ahead of him is Dak Prescott. So as far as healthy quarterbacks, he's 4th, which is pretty good. I mean, the guys ahead of him, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Pat Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes, sorry. All right, rest of season hard, and then we'll go to playoffs hard. I mean, rest of season hard. This is like a murderer's row of quarterbacks. 32nd, Aaron Rodgers. 31st, Jamal Murray. 30th, Russell Wilson. 29th, Deshaun Watson. 28th, Joe Burrow. If you then go down to the playoffs, Watson on both lists, he actually has the hardest playoff schedule. Then you got Cam Newton. I don't imagine anybody starting him in the playoffs. Then Kirk Cousins, then Roethlisberger, and then Tua. The rest of the season list, a lot more interesting to me. On your playoffs list, you're probably not starting any of these guys. Maybe Roethlisberger. Maybe if Tua does something amazing the rest of the way, maybe he sneaks in. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. Watson may be like close enough to the cusp where like this horrible schedule that he's facing both in the playoffs and the rest of the season, that might be a reason to get off him.
I think so. And that's what I was going to say. Of this entire list, again, Rodgers, Kyler Murray, you said Jamal Murray over there.
Did I say Jamal Murray?
The number 1 player in fantasy right now. Jamal Murray, come on.
I said
Get it
Jamal
together,
Murray.
Tree. I know you had basketball practice right before.
I know. My head swing. I apologize if that's what I said. Kyler Murray, who is just a badass, by the way.
Complete badass.
We haven't talked about him enough. What a bad dude. He's 2nd.
Fucking bastard. Yeah. He is 2nd hardest. But that's the thing is like the names on this list, you're not selling. You're not going to sell these guys ever. Rodgers, Murray, Russell, Watson, Burrow, other than maybe Watson, as you were saying, because he's been eating on a lighter schedule. You never know if and when that Will Fuller's stayed pretty healthy this entire year. That could just snap in the blink of an eye. He could be stretching one day and his hamstring could curl up into his body. So I think Watson, especially if you have a decent backup option, the way he's been roasting, and he's going to roast the next couple weeks. So it depends on when your trade deadline is. A lot of this Saturday. But if you could give him a week to cook again against Cleveland and a couple of these other easy matchups he has coming up and then sell him, go for it. Because it does start to get pretty tricky after these next 2 weeks. So he's the only one on the list that I'm like, yeah, I would sell this guy based on the schedule. Otherwise, you're looking at some sheer studs. Burrow, I've seen out there in a lot of leagues. And this is maybe one of those things where it's like, yeah, go get him, I guess, because it's Burrow and he's looked really good. But in tougher matchups, he has not really risen to the occasion. As good as he's looked, even in tough matchups, the stats just haven't really been there. So he's not a guy I'm sprinting out after he got cut in a lot of weeks during his bye week. And you just can't panic over Rodgers, Murray, or Russell. It's just unfortunate that those guys aren't on the easy list for people who own them. Sure. Instead of Foles and freaking Daniel Jones. Like, give that to Russell Wilson and let him cook. But those guys are going to still be great. And if you could use that as some way to negotiate a way to get one of them, like, hey, man, Rodgers has the hardest schedule. Like,
right. And this is just information. Use it or don't. But
exactly.
Here it is. Right.
This is not that actionable. But in terms of the playoffs, you mentioned it, Cam Newton, a lot of people, do I still hold on to him? Kirk Cousins.
No.
Big Ben and Tua, like you're not starting any of these guys. Watson's the only one that's really like he's locked in as my quarterback one. Do I make a move about it? Maybe, because I could see his numbers really dropping off towards the end of the year if that inevitable Fuller injury happens, and if the schedule is as tough as it's looking like right now.
All right, let's go on to running backs. We're going to go easy rest of season, and then we'll talk about easy playoffs and see if we have any crossovers there. David Montgomery and the Bears, easiest schedule rest of the way. It doesn't matter. I'm not starting. I don't care. I don't care who they're playing. I really don't. And then you've got running back by committee of the Colts, and we've already talked about that, how we don't want any part of that. So you can kind of cross these two up the list. Third, you got Dalvin Cook and the Vikings. This probably doesn't affect a whole lot that you're doing either, because this is, like the Wolf said a couple weeks ago, this is your top guy. By the way, did you know there's 3 guys in fantasy that are averaging 65 yards rushing and a touchdown rushing for the season every game? And
3 guys?
3 guys. You any guesses? One's Dalvin Cook, obviously.
One's obviously Dalvin Cook. And you said 65 rushing, not total yards, right?
No, 65 rushing and a touchdown.
I would say Derrick Henry.
Henry's the second, yes.
And then who else is rushing like a shitload right now? I mean, like Kamara's obviously total yardage, so it's not him. He's a monster. I don't fucking know off the top of my head who that would be.
Tough one. Kyler Murray.
Oh, Kyler Murray. Okay.
He's like you know how you've been in the league right now. You know how you were talking about Kamara a couple weeks ago, how he's the wide receiver 4 or wide receiver 8 or something.
Yeah.
Murray's like the RB5 or something like that.
It's like Lamar last year. Yeah.
Right.
Top 10
it is. So anyway, I know I digress a little bit. It's just I heard that stat and I was like, wow. I got to bring that up.
What's crazy too with Kyler though? Like I know we are digressing.
No, it's okay. I like talking about Kyler.
But of course, he's the absolute monster. And we were a year too early. We were all in on this guy last year, and took a little year, didn't have the D-Hop weapon, and that's why we were like, yeah, get all back in there. I wish I had went a little bit harder in on him. I was still like on the wait for QB train, so I didn't get too much Kyler stock, unfortunately, but. His seems more sustainable than Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, just long term. Because this dude has a great. Like, if he wasn't running, he'd be putting up great stats because his arm is incredible.
Yeah, great arm.
He throws outside the numbers, unlike freaking Lamar. Like literally, does not throw outside the numbers at all. Even though he had some good passing stats last year, Lamar Jackson, like he's clearly getting exposed, and I don't have that worry at all with Kyler Murray. So he's the man. He's got to be your number 1 dynasty quarterback. Like. Him and maybe Russell Wilson and Mahomes, like those.
Mahomes.
Mahomes.
I don't want to hate on Mahomes, but yeah, I'm very impressed with Kyler Murray.
He's right up there.
Fourth on the running back, rest of season easy. We got Deandre Swift and the Lions, and then Derrick Henry and the Titans. Now you had alluded in a previous podcast about Henry's rest of the season and then playoffs. Henry 5th for the rest of the way, but if we go to playoffs and look at that, the Titans have the easiest playoff run the rest of the way in, which makes Derrick Henry a pretty appealing pick. Then you got the Packers. Then you got the Lions. Again, they're on both lists. The Bears also on both lists. And then the Broncos. Broncos running game has been an absolute train wreck. Don't know how many of those guys you're going to be riding come playoff time. But teams/players that are on both lists, we see the Titans, we see the Lions, we see the Bears. Obviously, the Titans, the big one that's going to stick out there. And, of course, Dalvin Cook already on the rest of the season easy list as if he needs any help.
Exactly. And the interesting part with this is Derrick Henry's next 3 games are brutal. 29, 31, and 29, bottom 3 matchups. So if you can somehow, let's say you're Derrick Henry owners in win now mode in your league, and you're in good shape, you're 7-2, 8-1, whatever it might be, and you're headed towards the playoffs. Maybe you can use that to somehow negotiate Derrick Henry, man, like, he's going to struggle these next 3 weeks. And if you have time to let him struggle against the Colts tomorrow, like, do that. Like, the Colts have a great run D. He's not going to really struggle relatively. Like, he's coming off a 7-point day. So maybe, just maybe, you could use that, some leverage here with this tough schedule. Because then he gets in December, Jacksonville, Detroit, and Green Bay. I mean, ridiculous joke. Jacksonville's the 6th easiest, Detroit's the 2nd easiest, and Green Bay is the easiest. And you already know Derrick Henry because watch football every December, every late November, it's his yards per carry jump from like 4.2 to 5.7. The guy just goes completely berserk.
He really does seem to wear people down. I mean, you see this very specific trend, and I don't want to say all his games, but an awful lot of his games where he'll put up 33 yards in the first half or something, and then he'll go for $120 in the second half.
Right.
You have to assume it's got something to do with his running style and just his physique, that eventually it just becomes hard to keep having this guy crash into you. And I wonder if the same thing's happening just over the course of a year, as people are starting to get worn down across the league, and you've still just got this Von Miller type running back coming at you. I don't know. It's just it does seem to be a pattern that he favors him in the second half of the way, home stretch of games, which for fantasy is exactly what you want.
And it's 100% what it is. Remember when he was in this committee with DeMarco Murray, he could never seem to get his footing. It's because you need to feed this dude and let him pound the defense, wear him out. You don't want to be hitting a fucking 260-pound man that runs a 4.5, like bursts into you time and time again. You're going to get sick of that by the end of the game. And so that's absolutely what it is. And then especially towards the end of the year, playing football myself for a while, by December, and it's cold out, those hits hurt that much more. They sting that much worse. The ear hole just rings that much harder. That just makes that much more sense why a guy like Derrick Henry is that much worse to tackle when the weather's getting colder and everybody's worn down from a long season. That's the last thing you want to see coming down the field. So it makes perfect sense why it happens at the end of games and in the regular season. And it's going to happen again this year, especially in the fantasy playoffs with that schedule. The opposite trend, Henry having those tough 3 games and then an easy end of season. Dalvin Cook has the biggest joke of a schedule for these next 3 or 4 weeks. So anybody who owns Dalvin Cook is probably going to win every single game these next 3-4 weeks. But his playoff schedule does get quite tough. And so I'm not sitting here saying you got to go bail on Dalvin Cook because he has a tough playoff schedule. He's going to eat no matter what he does. But if you could trade, I saw some people DM me, I could give Dalvin Cook, I'll get Derrick Henry and Allen Robinson. It's like, dude,
I would do that. Yeah,
absolutely. Like I would do it for much less than Allen Robinson. If you can get Henry in some sort of asset that's going to be in your starting lineup, I could see the numbers going crazy for Cook with Henry not doing much these next few weeks, and then just completely flip where Henry is bringing the titles and Dalvin Cook is good but not great. And the injury history, Henry's a tank. Like nothing's going to happen to him. Dalvin Cook does have that pretty legitimate lengthy injury history too. Let's hope nothing ever happens to either of these guys. But I would be entertaining offers if I can get a Derrick Henry or if I could get a package, as you mentioned, Aaron Jones, one of the easiest playoff schedules. When this dude has easy matchups, he goes completely bonkers. We saw him already put up 45 against Detroit earlier this year. Well, that's one of his playoff matchups, so you can expect that to happen again. You get the nice benefit if you trade from this week. He faces Jacksonville, bottom 6 defense, but Detroit, then Carolina, which is bottom 3. So many touchdowns allowed this year, and Tennessee, bottom 10 as well for Aaron Jones. He might be a little bit more acquirable than, say, a Derrick Henry and, say, a Dalvin Cook. I think he's right up there in terms of ability, but he's been hurt lately. He came back last week and got like 10 to 14, depending on your scoring. So maybe you could throw some offers out. Maybe you could turn Dalvin Cook into Aaron Jones and another usable piece. That is something I would definitely entertain, no doubt, because of that playoff schedule. I think if you're looking for a guy, the must-get guys, sell the farm, it's Aaron Jones, it's Derrick Henry, of course, Dalvin Cook, if you can somehow get him. But I would be willing to move Dalvin Cook for those guys. Then the last guy you mentioned, Deandre Swift, such an intriguing talent. And just want to mention him because he's on both lists. You got the rest of season list and the playoff list. It's a cake schedule the rest of the way. There's like 1 or 2 tough matchups. A lot of shootout style games where they're going to get down early, which is going to favor his snaps. We've seen those snaps over 40% in 3 straight games, which is nothing crazy, but much better than what we had seen early in the year. So if we get the volume to match the schedule, we know the talent's there. We've seen it whenever he gets the work. He could blow up down the stretch. And right now he would not be hard to acquire given his committee status, given that he hasn't done anything that crazy so far this year. So I like targeting him if I'm a playoff-minded rest of season guy that needs an injection. Either way, DeAndre Swift, depending on what the price tag would be, I don't think it's going to be too expensive. And we could see the best is yet to come type, like that Jacksonville day when he had 27.5 points. That could become more of the norm down the stretch here. So very intrigued by him. David Montgomery obviously doesn't matter.
Right.
He's had easy matchups all year, and he hasn't done a single thing in them. The definition of the Krispy Kremes, just to give you I wrote about the running backs today, so I have a little more juice on these guys. In the 3 times he's faced bottom 10 defenses, he scored a healthy, robust 7.9, 11.7, and 3.7. 16 carries, 26 carries, 17, and that's what he's putting up for you. A fucking loser. Absolute bag of shit. Like, his schedule, if you can use that to somehow, like, intrigue someone to get him, look at how easy his matchups are. Derek, we got David Montgomery, pure cakewalk. He's going to go crazy down the stretch.
You know what I would say if somebody said that to me.
You would say, spit on my fucking face.
I'd say, I know what I saw.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't give a shit what that says. All right,
exactly.
Let's go to hard rest of season schedules, and we'll see how that intersects with playoffs. And if you should care about any of these, rest of the season hardest schedule is Dallas, and it's also the hardest playoff schedule. And the running game's already in the shitter, so we probably shouldn't even much talk about them anymore. Now, for the rest of the season, Seattle actually has the second hardest one, Chris Carson and company. Then Atlanta. Gurley has been he's been a surprisingly good running back. Maybe unload him to somebody that's looking.
Number 6 in fantasy. He's the number 6 running back in fantasy.
And then the Giants, who the fuck cares? And then the Saints. I think we're talking about Kamara. And, if we look at the playoffs, the Cardinals, after Dallas, have the second hardest run, then the Bills. These are not teams with particularly scary running games. Now, Kyler Murray aside, when you're talking about the Cardinals, then the Steelers, who, honestly, their running game hasn't been good either. Connor's been a pretty big dud. And then the Texans. So, man, I don't know. That hard schedule for the playoffs for running backs is not doing much for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really trying to own a piece of any of those guys anyway.
No, not really. It's starting with the rest of the season, guys. I mean, Dallas obviously has gone to shit, like anybody with eyes. But Zeke still is Zeke. He still has name value, and you might be able to use that to your advantage. Because I'm just based on the schedule, based on what we've seen, the quote of the day today, it's not going to get any better. In fact, it's probably going to get worse. So if you can get anything for Zeke Elliott at this point, I'm trying to unload him to anybody that thinks they're savvy and is like, okay, Zeke's value is real low right now. Like, let's go buy him. No, I want nothing to do with him. Use that name value if you possibly can. Carson, the guys I'm not worried about are guys like Carson, where sure, it's a hard run schedule. That's not really why you own Carson anyways. It's the fact that he's scoring a touchdown every time he's out there because he's in the league's best offense. So I don't care so much that he has a hard schedule, but Gurley, on the other end, his value is very touchdown dependent. And then again, he's also seen, third most carries. So strictly volume, he's seen so many easy games so far this year. So I know as you were reading the names, you're like, Gurley could be an interesting one to unload right now based on the schedule. And I totally agree. Third most carries, fourth most total opportunities. And he's been mediocre, 3.6 yards per carry, 57th in the league with it. So not very efficient. Hasn't looked good, has still ridden that volume in that easy cakewalk schedule so far for the year. To top 6 numbers, I think that's going to come crashing down. So if he's a guy that you can use in a package to get one of those Henrys, if you can do, get, Todd Gurley and Allen Robinson and get a Derrick Henry, like I would be trying to package him. And I would be trying to package a lot of these guys in the playoffs. Chase Edmonds, James Conner, who's had a solid season. Like the injury ticking bomb, the schedule. And then, of course, David Johnson, nobody wants anyways. And nobody wants really the Bills backfield. So it doesn't matter. You're not really sprinting to unload those guys. Maybe Zach Moss has a little intrigue. He's picked it up a bit. You wrote about those guys this week, right?
I did. I wrote about the Bills backfield and I'm actually going to reference the other guy in the Bills backfield right now because I got 2 questions for you. My first question is, do you want to know what Zeke went for in my league? He was just traded a couple of days ago, like 3-4 days ago. Here was the trade. You're not gonna believe this. The guy with Zeke traded Zeke, Darius Slayton, and TJ Hawkinson, and got in return Jonnu Smith, David Johnson, and Devin Singletary.
Oh, like I was gonna say, there's not really much I want for Zeke. I'll take Zeke.
Guy traded 3 pretty terrible players.
for 3 even
and
worse.
got Zeke and Hawkinson. Hawkinson's probably the best player in the deal.
Exactly, right? That is the best player of the deal. So
that's kind of goes to what you said. It's like if you can get Zeke for that, absolutely go for it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's going to just be like, here's garbage.
Right.
Like, and you're like, okay, we'll do that.
Sure. Because maybe Zeke can get it done. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think he will. But for
I
that,
don't think he will either. But gosh, I mean, like you're not giving up anything. I'd love to have the guy on my roster.
Exactly.
I wish the guy had come shopping to me. I could have given him some trash.
Right. Exactly.
So next question I want to know. I've heard you throw out like 3 hypothetical trades, I feel like, just on this episode.
Yeah.
And you always you're saying like X player, and then you always throw in and Allen Robinson. Yeah. Why is Allen Robinson your de facto throw-in player in all these hypothetical deals?
And we're going to talk about wide receivers in a second. I actually want to get Allen Robinson on my team.
I know. I have him. He's like the number 7 or 8 wide receiver in fantasy.
Exactly. He's got an easy schedule. I'm not looking to get rid of Allen Robinson. I mean, I don't like fucking Nick Foles ever throwing the ball at Trubisky, but
he's quarterback proof.
Exactly. We've seen it all time and time again. The only reason I keep throwing him in is because for whatever reason, he's the guy I keep getting asked about time and time again on Twitter, on Facebook, and everything.
You want to know why? I have theories on this because I shopped him around a little earlier in the year, not because I didn't like his production. Just I was trying to get other pieces, and I throw him in. He seems to be the receiver that's up at the top, and he is a clear-cut wide receiver 1. There's no arguing about it. That people don't take seriously.
Right.
Like you throw him in there, like, Allen Robinson, shit, give me a break. And I mean, it's possible. I mean, he might even average. Like I threw him. I was trying to trade him and somebody else for Tyreek Hill and somebody else a couple weeks ago. It was before Tyreek had blown up. And Robinson was outscoring Hill pretty substantially. And my other guy was better. And the guy was like laughed in my face, like, are you fucking serious? And I mean, it's like people don't really seem to respect Allen Robinson. And I'm wondering if you're one of those people.
No, I'm not. He's just the guy on the mind because I've answered since I released the article, about 100 trade questions. I love Reddit. Reddit's been incredible. I put something up there and say, I'll answer your questions, and we'll get 100 questions in like 20 minutes. It's unbelievable. So anybody that's tuned in from Reddit on here, thank you. You guys are awesome. Hardcore niche crew, and they're great. But no, it's the guy that's fresh on the mind. If people are that low on Allen Robinson, I want him. Like I love his schedule.
Well, we're going to talk about him now because we're going to move to wide receivers and we're going to start rest of the season easy, and then we'll go into playoffs. And we got the Rams number 1, your Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and whoever the hell else they got going on. Tyler Higbee. Don't forget about. Well, I guess he's a tight end. Anyway, we got the Bears, Allen Robinson and company. Eagles, possibly intriguing Eagles pick there. We got with Rieger and some other guys that are now finally healthy. We got
Travis Fulgham too.
Yeah, man. The Washington football team. Who's going to be throwing the ball though for them? I'm not probably touching any of them. And then we got Buffalo. Although I heard Stephon Diggs is out 4 to 6 weeks. Is that true? Or is that? Or was no wait? I think it was Diggs on the Cowboys. Never mind. The defensive player. I saw that. I saw that and I like freaked out and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe no one's talking about it. And then I realized
had to lead off the show with that.
Yeah, and then for some reason I changed it back in my mind right now. Please don't panic. Everybody that just everyone that just dropped Stephon Diggs, I'm really sorry. And then if you go to for playoffs easy, you got the Rams at the top again. You got the Jets. Who cares? If they're not playing the Patriots, they're not going to score any points. And then we got the Bucks receivers. That's intriguing. Chicago's receivers in the playoffs, and then KC's receivers, as if they need any help.
Right.
So. I mean, to me, you're the Bucks, very, very intriguing. You already said Brady. Obviously, he's got the easy scheduling. We're talking about these receivers with the addition of Antonio Brown. Man, some of these guys could really, really, really blow up. Are you interested in the Rams? I mean, the Rams have an easy way rest of the way. Is there a Rams receiver you would specifically want to get your hands on?
I like both of these guys. I love Robert Woods probably a little more than Cooper Kupp. Just seems to have a higher weekly floor. But man, Kupp had 21 targets the last time he was out there against Miami. Insanity. So I love both of them. They get Seattle this week, so they get it kicked off right now, and then they get Seattle in week 16, the Jets in week 15, and the Patriots, who we just saw get destroyed by Brashad Perriman and co. I love these Rams receivers. They're going to blow up down the stretch, in particular 15 and 16 Jets in Seattle. Think about like what Jacoby Myers just did to the Jets, and then you put Cooper Kupp out of the slot in that similar position. He could go crazy. So whichever one you can get, I would be all about acquiring your Rams guys with that schedule. It's a complete joke. And then, a lot of these quarterbacks are tied that have these.
Right. I mean, it's similar lists in some ways, right?
Oftentimes a similar list. There's a handful that, the tight end actually has the cake matchups. But good to see, Allen Robinson, we've already talked about a bit. He's very intriguing, big body. He's going to destroy the corners he has lined up. The Eagles guys, though, those are the guys like Reagor still out there in like 70% of leagues with that schedule, with his talent. With the potential target share, why is he still so far available?
He's on my roster.
And he should be because of the schedule he's facing. It's a complete cakewalk. Obviously, Fulgham is the number one there, and I like that because he can draw some of the big attention.
Pretty good.
Fulgham looks really good. I know I was shitting on him and calling him like an Idaho potato name. I don't even know what the fuck I was calling him. But he is so good at the point of attack. It's just a big body and uses that frame well. I disrespected him undeservingly. The more and more I watched him, this guy's actually good.
Is this an apology? Is this an on-air apology?
I know he's a big fan. Travis, thank you for still tuning in through the jokes and the meanness. I appreciate you sticking it out with the fullback dive. This is an apology to you because you are a good player. But Reagor could even be better. That's all.
We're just talking shit, Travis.
Reagor has a better skill set if he can fully blossom into the number one there. So I love those guys, and I don't think either of them, like Reagor, again, widely available, and Fulgham is still Fulgham in the sense of how I disrespect him. Who the fuck's a Fulgham?
The same way Allen Robinson's getting disrespected. It's just like a level or two below that.
Exactly right. The perception of him, I think, is a lot different than what the production's been. I mean, the number one receiver since he took over as a starter until now, he was the number one receiver in fantasy. It's crazy the production this guy's been putting up. So maybe you could get him for cheap. So I am intrigued by this list of easy guys from the wide receiver position. As you mentioned, the skins, you got Terry McLaurin, who's been a monster. Was a league winner down the stretch last year. I think that repeats itself. And then Buffalo, you got to love Diggs. You got to love Diggs.
Who is not injured, by the way.
Not injured. The healthy Diggs.
Right.
I'm a big fan of that. So, yeah, I like all these guys. There's definitely the thing with receiver, it's different than quarterback, running back, tight end, because there's multiple on the field, obviously. And so that means even if you don't get the number one, the alpha, you can usually find a number two here. Darnell Mooney for the Bears, for example, saw 11 targets. Only 13% owned right now, could have a crazy stretch run as a rookie with some real deep speed if he and Foles can ever get on the same page, or Trubisky. So I like a lot of these guys. You said the Jets too. Get rid of the Jets, right? I know you saw that list, laughed him off.
I mean, I don't know if you have Crowder or whatever. I mean, he's already a decent option, and if he's playing a weak schedule, you're not going to take him out of your lineup. I don't think you're going to go and try to acquire as many Jets receivers as you can.
No, but Perriman, though, this last week.
Maybe Perriman.
Still out there, and I get it. It seems gross. But keep this in mind, is last year when he became that number one for the Bucs, there was literally not a person that was more owned and started on championship rosters. Not owned, I shouldn't say owned, but started than Brashad Perriman. On 30% of championship rosters had Perriman because it was that crazy windfall of injuries. He was out there in every league. And so people who lost Godwin and lost Evans.
That's fair.
He can get it done. He just showed us he could get it done. So as a guy that's out there in 90% of leagues right now, we got to see him stay healthy. But I could see Brashad Perriman making some interesting noise down the stretch run here. And you mentioned the Bucs too. What do we do with them? It's three alphas. Is one going to actually ever separate? Maybe one won't have to when they face this easy of a schedule down the stretch. And then the Chiefs is just God bless whoever. I don't feel bad. It's a league mate of mine, so he's a fucking asshole, loser. He traded away. He had Tyreek and Mahomes, and his running backs blew. Jonathan Taylor was his one, which clearly is not a good strategy right now. But he traded away Tyreek Hill for Josh Jacobs a couple weeks ago.
What?
And horrible stuff. Awful. And so he could have had this just beautiful connection for the entire phase. He's in position to make the playoffs. Or maybe not now because Jacobs has really started to take his roster.
Jacobs is terrible.
He's terrible. 18 targets the next week for Tyreek Hill. What a loser Nate Berry is. Shout out the name there for all the people that are going
to. Yeah. Flash his address and stuff up on the screen too.
Yeah, exactly. Go find him.
Drive by his house. I mean, I just think that So I think that obviously we already talked about the Rams ad nauseum and the Bucs, of course. Robinson's the guy for the Bears. The Chiefs, forget about it. I mean, when we start talking about, I'm really concerned about the hard schedules that are coming up, because Seattle, rest of the season, hard schedule, number one hardest schedule rest of the way, and number one in the playoffs. I'm a Metcalf owner, so of course that bothers me. He seems to be basically matchup proof, so maybe it won't really matter for Metcalf. I don't know. The rest of the guys. It doesn't
matter. I mean, well, so here's the deal. They have had a cake schedule so far this year. Yeah. When you have a quarterback like Russell, I don't think it should matter. But you never know. I guess Tre'Davious White last week, one of the better corners in the league, he put up 24. So I do think Metcalf is just about as matchup proof as they get. But for a guy like Tyler Lockett, who's so boom or bust right now, maybe he could be the one that still the total points look good, but really it's been like 2 to 3 monster games that are really padding those stats. Maybe he could be a piece, right? That I wouldn't move Metcalf unless I get blown away.
I'm not moving Metcalf. I want a piece of that. I mean, they throw that ball tight on, like, say, the 4-yard line, and he just cuts in, and they throw slant to him, and it's like there's 2 other guys there, and he's just like, give me the fucking ball.
Yeah, that's right. This is mine.
And just takes it.
Child.
And you're not surprised at all. We also have the Chargers, which is interesting because I know we talked playoffs, easy schedule the rest of the way, and Herbert was on that list. As wide receivers matching up, interesting contradiction. You would not think that. But rest of the way, regular season, we like the Chargers, the Broncos. They're kind of surging the right way as well. Dolphins with Tua, maybe Panthers. They already do score quite a few points. These are all kind of interesting.
It's a lot of good offenses, so it's good to know, like, oh, man, what if these guys start trending downwards? Keenan Allen's still Keenan Allen. I'm not worried about Keenan Allen. Like, he moves around. He gets the weaker matchups because he's in the slot so much. I'm not worried about him, but maybe like Jeudy off this huge breakout game. Everybody's all about Jerry Jeudy, and they should be. The dude looked unbelievable. He's looked unbelievable all year. He finally just got the volume to back up his play. But with everybody so fucking on his dick right now, and they, again, deserve to be.
On his dick.
But this was like a piece that is very valuable, very sexy right now that could end up underwhelming because he's underwhelmed all year. He's really had one big game, and that big game came against Atlanta, and everybody has big games against Atlanta. So while his shine is as bright as it's ever going to be, I could see his numbers going not quite as far back as the shit that we was doing earlier in the year. But I don't know that I think we've seen his best game is how I'll put it. Okay. And so Jeudy could be an intriguing piece that, again, I like the package deals. If you have Jeudy and someone else to go get a Tyreek Hill, like a good running back or a really good receiver plus Jeudy, gets you Tyreek Hill or something like that. One of these guys with an easy schedule. Or maybe you can pawn Jeudy into Robert Woods. That those two are pretty close in people's eyes right now. And I think by between what Woods is going to do the rest of the season, what Judy's going to do, I think those things are going to be quite separate. So I think there's some intriguing sells. Devonte Parker, I get a lot of questions about him. Is he going to turn it around? It's going to happen with Tua. I mean, the 4th hardest schedule among receivers, and Tua just doesn't pepper him quite like Ryan Fitz does. So if there's still name value to Parker, go for him. I've got a lot of questions like Antonio Brown versus Parker. Give me the upside of Antonio Brown with an easy schedule versus the downside of Parker at a hard schedule with lackluster quarterback play. And then the Panthers is like, what do we do? They spread the ball so well. Anyways, I'm not too worried about an offense like that.
I'm not either.
But just another reason why if you can move DJ Moore, like I don't see him getting it together at all this year. And he still might have name value in some circles. At this point, probably not.
The playoffs, the playoffs list is very similar. So we don't have to talk through all these again. The only team that's different that shows up is New England, who you're not touching their receivers with a 10-foot fucking pole. So I don't even feel like we need to really talk about that. No, there's literally no New England receiver that I would want even talking to anybody on my roster.
Exactly. No, Kobe Myers,
he's not starting for Nat the Truth Jones's fantasy team.
I don't blame you either, but the next couple of weeks where the schedule is not ridiculously hard, I mean, the dude just had 14 targets. Like 14 targets is 14 targets, and he caught 12 of them, and it should have been 13 if Cam didn't sail that over his head. So I don't hate Myers. 40% target share in back-to-back weeks. He is the alpha. He's the only one Cam looks to. So I like Myers as a player, but he's another guy that if his value's high, after these next couple of weeks, if your trade deadline doesn't happen, I think his value, he's going to have another couple good games. Then Edelman will be back and stuff. So he's another guy that could build up a little value to be a movable piece as well.
All right, let's move on to tight ends. Rest of the season, easy. We're going to lead the list with the Bucs again, recurring theme. So Gronk might be a guy to have. Pittsburgh second, Denver third, Cleveland fourth, Giants fifth. I mean, four of those, or at least three of those, are teams with semi-marquee tight ends. If you can even, I mean, if there's even any of those anymore other than Travis Kelce, they're names people might know. For easy playoff schedule, Travis Kelce actually leads the way, which is terrifying. I mean, it doesn't affect anything you're doing except to just be like, shit, if you're playing against him. Then we got Seattle. Then we got Chicago. Who do they have? Jimmy Graham?
Yep.
Yeah. And then Jacksonville and then Dallas. So I don't know. I mean, with the tight end being such a crapshoot position and, a lot of people streaming from week to week, maybe you pick up Jacksonville or Dallas's tight end.
Right. Exactly. I mean, Ebron was one of those guys. Let's go to the rest of season list. Gronk. That rapport seems to be back. Wouldn't be surprised to see him be the number 2, 3 tight end with the landscape the way it is right now. It's Kelce number 1, but if Kittle's not coming back, Gronk will be a top 4 tight end by the end of the year, maybe top 3 from these last few weeks.
It's slim picking.
And there's so many weapons there too, but he's going to score a touchdown more weeks than he doesn't. From here on out. Ebron, we've talked about his schedule for a while. I've recommended him as a Kittle replacement for anybody I could. And he's scoring. He's scoring some TDs at this point. So I like Ebron. Noah Fant now with Albert O, torn ACL. The tight end job all to himself. Albert O doesn't. Who the hell is Albert O in the first place? I know you know him because we've talked about him quite a few times. But the dude did have 5 end zone targets over the last 4 weeks. Drew Lock loved him because of that college connection. So this is not insignificant that he's out or that Noah Fant has an easy playoff schedule. He's a guy you might be able to get pretty well. At the end of the day, again, tight ends, like who's really trading tight ends, who's looking for tight ends. Like there's not a lot of movement. If you have Noah Fant, you're probably not selling him. But maybe somebody has Noah Fant and Robert Tonyan or something like that, and you could try to get one of them and try to talk them up as they're the same. But Noah Fant could go crazy down the stretch. Austin, a ton of leagues entering today. His numbers have spiked since his bye week spy, but with an easy schedule, he was one that had 10 points in 3 straight weeks, 5 catches in all those games. Like if you can get 5 weekly catches from your tight end, you're doing something.
Sure.
Right.
If I could sign up for that right now, like some sort of insurance policy where you said you no longer get use out of your tight end position, I will give you 5 catches. I'm not going to tell you how many yards they're for or anything. I would take it. That's been like, okay. Goodbye.
Any day of the week.
Yep.
Exactly.
Where do I sign?
He said, give me that. I'll sell my soul for that for my fucking tight end at this point with Jordan Reed, the guy I just fucking started. And that was also that production came with Odell out. So I could see Hooper having a nice stretch here. And then Ingram, who's really 3rd in tight end target. So the volume we predicted early in the season, I know I hyped up Ingram pretty big in the preseason. The volume's been there. The production is finally starting to follow. And Daniel Jones's easy schedule is largely because his tight end has such an easy schedule too. So I could see Ingram. He's one that
he's a valuable piece. I really do.
I think he's an athletic freak that has still not really hit his ceiling on the year. And a guy that a lot of people hate right now because of how bad he's been. He's one that I could definitely see you being able to get for pretty cheap for a bench wide receiver that could have a very, very nice stretch run. And as you mentioned, Kelce, the easiest playoff schedule, like fucking crazy. So, other than that, like Jimmy Graham's having a surprisingly.
He's been okay. I mean, he's very touchdown dependent, but I mean, so are all these guys.
Exactly. And he should be in line to score some more touchdowns with this easier schedule moving forward. So other than that, there's no one on Jacksonville you're looking at. There's no one really in Seattle. That's going to be the hardest anyways. There's no one you're really looking at. Dalton Schultz did get dropped, and maybe he's had a decent couple days recently, but I'm not to get them. I think this was all just to kind of say, like, we'll summarize our big takeaways, but on that list of Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, on that list of Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, Kelce's on there as like, if you can somehow sell your farm and get Travis Kelce as your stretch run tight end, he's going to go crazy.
The thing is, that might even be true if he wasn't on this list.
Right.
I mean, exactly. you might be willing to sell your farm to get Travis Kelce. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We could do at some point, a ranking of most valuable fantasy players. I don't think he's anything. I don't think he's anywhere outside the top 5.
No.
I really don't. I think it's that much of an edge. And that's not like a hot take. I mean, I've heard plenty of people say stuff like that. I'm just blown away week after week by the discrepancy between him and everybody else.
I feel like that happens, Nat, every year. Like at the end of the year, we're always, not just us, everybody's always like, how big of an edge is Travis Kelce? If you have him at this point, you're in your playoffs, you're going to your championships, and then he's going to fall around fucking 2 the next year. And I don't get it. Like, why can't I go with my own head?
You're right. You're right. But I think that this year has been more pronounced than past years because, last year there was George Kittle. I mean, you can make a real case he was the guy last year. It was amazing. I mean, there's always, there was Gronk 3 years ago or whatever. Now it's just him. And the advantage is there. And he's a first round guy, or he should be. I mean, until something changes, he should be. When we talk rest of season and playoff hard schedule, there's not much worth discussing on this list. To me, there's one team on one of these lists that's worth talking about. So rest of season hard: Buffalo, the Rams, the Jets, Cincinnati, Washington. We've talked about how all these tight ends you could interchange them or whatever. You're not okay. It's fine. You're not playing any of those guys. No. Playoffs hard: Washington, Buffalo, Miami. Rams are 28th, but 29th is the Raiders. That's the one team that's worth discussing on these lists. We talked about Waller might be the second guy.
Right. He is your number 2 tight end at this point because he's the only other guy you're getting that type of volume from. So it's one of those things. Yeah, he has a hard schedule. You're not going to be selling freaking Darren Waller at this point.
Just a waivers random guy? No, you're playing him.
No. The only thing is if you could get like a Robert Woods. Again, if you have a decent – let's say you own Waller and Ingram or Waller and Ebron, and you have one of these easy schedule guys – this could be that push you need to turn Waller into that valuable high-end wide receiver too, that he should be valued at. And maybe he does fizzle down the stretch because of that schedule. I don't think he will, but it is hard, and it could make him he's again so valuable in people's eyes. Maybe this gives him a little trade value. But yeah, none of those tight ends matter. So we can move on to the mailbag at this point.
Let's hit the mailbag. I hope that was useful, guys. I mean, I'm actually really interested in that stuff. And pay attention to when your trade deadline is, because for most of you, it's probably like real soon.
Exactly.
So you're going
Sorry, did not mean to cut you off. But
no,
we have our little
mailbag graphic.
Little mailbag graphic there. So let us now pull up our banner. Let's pull up our questions. We got a nice 50 so far. Let's see how many more come in. Let's hit our mailbag.
Martin with a Y. I love that. Broadhurst. Should I trade Curtis Samuel for Brandon Cooks? Thank you. I'd rather have Samuel personally.
See, I'd rather have Cooks with the schedule.
All right. Make the case.
One of them have cakewalk schedules. But with a fuller potential injury, like Samuel's in a more congested spot. I mean, I'm loving Samuel. I own Samuel. I think Cooks has the clearer path to more consistent targets all year. So I'm going to roll with Cooks. I
don't know, man. When we talk about Samuel, I wrote a piece on him, so I always tend to have more to say about guys that I've written stuff on. I just know lots more. I mean, and I mentioned this on the show, fantasy points last 5 weeks, PPR. I think it's 8, 10, 16, 21, 27 in that order. I mean, that's like a freight train. Obviously, he's not going to keep going up forever. I just don't know about Cooks. We'll see. Sorry to give you a split answer there, Martin. So you have to decide which one of us you trust more. Only one of us is 4th on the fantasy rankings. Yeah. I didn't do it. It wouldn't have been fair.
Which side are you going for is the key? But yeah, he is the wide receiver 6 in that span that you talked about, whereas Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore are 24 and 25. So is he, dare I say, the alpha now?
No, it's Robbie Anderson, I still think.
It still is Robbie. I agree. But Brady does love using this guy. And now with C-Mac banged up again, maybe Curtis Samuel could pick up some slack during however long C-Mac's going to miss. So, yeah, I don't think it's a fluke. I think he fits exactly what Joe Brady wants to do on offense. And a crazy stat. I don't know if you had this in your piece on him. He has 14 catches for first downs. He's been targeted 20 times on third down, caught 19 of them, and converted 14 of them.
My piece would have been better if I did.
Yeah, this is a good one we could toss in there. Combined, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson have combined for 15 first downs. So literally combined only one more total than this guy has on the year, and they've been targeted the same amount. So it's like they lock in on this guy. The playbook becomes Curtis Samuel on third downs, and he's converting, and he's doing
my case for me.
So I do like Curtis a lot. I think I'm really high on Brandon Cooks. That's more so what it is. I love them both. But yeah, long answer for you, Martin.
Taylor Malone, trade DK for Swift and Allen Robinson. Look at Allen Robinson getting some action in these.
There he is.
He wants to know, do you trade DK for Swift and Allen Robinson?
Man, like this would be the classic, like how much do you
value trade, right?
Like if you are all in on strength of schedule, then DK has the worst possible schedule, and Swift and Allen Robinson both landed on our easiest, both for playoffs and rest of season. But this is where it's like you gotta, at a certain point, take the strength of schedule and be like, okay, I also have a 6'4" monster who bodies everybody in his path. Like schedule doesn't matter for him. And if I own DK, how could your fantasy locker room watch him walk out of it and ever respect you again? Like that's just an untouchable guy at this point.
Taylor, I wouldn't do it. I understand why it might seem like it makes sense, but I just wouldn't. Schedule
wise, all the analytics wise, it seems to make sense, but that you can never let DK, unless I'm getting like neither Swift or Robinson are like elite ones. Robinson's close. He's like a lower end wide receiver one, and Swift is like an RB2 at best. I'm not trading away my untouchable alpha for one of those guys. No.
Kyle Tunenberg.
Well, we got
Dennis Jennings. What's up, Wolf? What's up, man?
No love for the truth. Come on.
I know. What am I invisible over here? Thank you, Kyle, including me. Kyle Tunenberg. Hey, Wolf and Truth. How are we doing tonight, boys? We're doing okay. I was in a rush getting here. I ran a basketball practice, and so the Wolf did almost all the prep work for this. But I'm catching my groove now. About an hour in.
I got you. All right, there you go. Denny Jennings redeems himself.
Thank you, Denny. Appreciate it. Taylor Malone, top 5. I know, that's awesome, right? Top 4.
I'm stoked about it, man.
I don't know why the arbitrary number we do is 5. He's top 4, man.
Yeah, top 4. Exactly. Inside that 4.
Mike Clay, LFG. Keep up the good work. All right.
Love you, Mike. Love you.
Mitch Chavez. Can't connect to you on YouTube, but good here on Facebook. IDK. Tried a few times. I don't know what's up with that. We do have some people that have already commented from YouTube, so I don't know how to explain that. But I'm glad we have multiple channels for you to get in here, Mitch.
I'm glad you joined, my man. As him and Mike Clay and we got Denny, like all the early comments. Man. They're the shit. They come every single week, every single show. Like you guys are the fucking balls. You make it, and I mean that very complimentary. Like the balls, the tits, whatever word you'd like to use. You guys are awesome, Mitch. Everybody that comes.
Mitch says awesome job on that BTW, which I'm assuming means the top 4. You're the man.
Yep,
I agree. I hate needlessly complimenting the Wolf, but he really deserves it. Brad Ross Jr. won. I bolted on Jonathan Taylor, already regretting it. Really? Why?
I don't know that you need to. I mean, as we talked about this.
Why? What'd you get for him?
A cakewalk schedule. So, I mean, I get that part of it. Maybe he was responding to like the cakewalk schedule.
Yeah, maybe.
But who's to say that cakewalk schedule doesn't apply more to Jordan Wilkins?
Wilkins might be the guy that's cleaning up.
He's out-snapped and out-touched him in 3 straight weeks. So, like, I don't know that you need to regret it. It depends on what you got, but, like, I don't know about that.
Dennis Jennings. Denny, congrats, Wolf. And there's multiple beer emojis surrounding that, which are well-deserved.
That's my man right there.
Jesus protect me. Wolf, what up, my man? Congrats and keep killing it. You deserve this. This is the Fantasy Typhoon. Maybe we should have an episode called that.
That dude's the man. I went on his show last night. He's Typhoon. You are the absolute man. Great energy to him. Fun-ass show. Love that you tuned into here now too, man. You're a legend. You're a legend. That was great stuff. Anybody that doesn't check out Typhoon stuff, he loves answering questions. He's a great guy. So check out the Typhoon.
Nice. Mitch Chavez traded Herbert, Mark Andrews, and Juju for Mahomes and Hawkinson. Thoughts?
Ooh.
Hawkinson, better tight end lately, and like Mahomes, I like Mahomes' rest of season schedule. I'm good at receiver. I kind of like it actually.
I think you fleeced it. I mean, I love Herbert.
Mahomes is Mahomes, man. Like you love being the guy that gets the best player in a trade. That's undisputedly Mahomes.
Yeah.
Hawkinson, Andrews, okay, that's a toss-up. Whatever.
And I'd rather have Hawkinson at this point. I mean, he scored.
I'd rather have him. It's close, but I'd probably rather have Hawkinson. But who cares? Like, I don't even care about the rest of the guys in this trade. Mahomes over Herbert, that's a no-brainer. So good job. Absolutely. And we just talked about Mahomes' playoff schedule, so you should be foaming even more at the mouth right now, Mitch Chavez. And Herbert has a great one too. But anytime you can put in Mahomes over Herbert, I do it. I take Hawkinson over Andrews. So it's like that the price to get those 2 upgrades was Juju.
who knows what Juju's going to do every single week, given that they have 3 great receivers there. So I love it. I think you did a great job there, Mitch.
Yeah, good job, Mitch. Kyle Tunenberg, I have Emmanuel Sanders, Rager, Ayuk, Shepard, and John Brown. That's like an interesting class of receivers. They're all kind of in that same range. I picked up Duke Johnson, but would like to pad the running back position. Who of those would you trade for Swift or Edmonds?
I would
like trade up, you mean, or
I would trade any of those receivers, to be honest, to get either of those running backs. I think Edmonds is going to be more. So too. Yeah. I think Edmonds would be more expensive to get, and he has a worse schedule moving forward. Drake has been practicing, so he's the one I'm least attracted to, for the price, at least. I'd rather have Edmonds in a vacuum than Swift, but I feel like Swift is still a little bit lower on people's raters. So I would package up any of those guys. Like if you could do Duke and any of those guys or whatever it might be, 2 of those receivers to get Swift or something, like toss it out low and see, work your way there. But there's not one of those guys I would hang on to over Swift or Edmonds tunes.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Chris Jason at Mitch. I just saw a tweet that there's a massive YouTube outage happening right now. LOL. Well, there you go. CJ's all over this stuff.
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy.
Knows everything that's going on with every social media outlet at all times.
Mike Clay, Herbert time. We agree, unless you're trading him for Pat Mahomes, in which case we don't agree.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Max Sanger. Easiest schedule can be very deceiving, though, right? Big leads takes the air out of the ball. Shit offenses don't capitalize. Maybe combine fantasy points against with the over-under and create a new data point that better projects who has the easiest schedule. I'd say fair feedback.
And I think, too, actually, Max, maybe we could have presented it more cleanly. When we say easiest, it's not like in terms of wins and losses. It is exactly what you say with fantasy points against. So whatever might go into that, like look at the Seahawks, for example, the most points allowed to wide receivers. It's not because they are a bad team. It's because they build up such big leads. They have such a crap defense that you keep running, you keep going against them. So it wasn't necessarily that it was all bad teams, and that's why we ranked those guys. So we could have presented that maybe a little clearer, but hopefully it helps you to know that it was all about fantasy points against and nothing to do with win-loss totals, any of that.
Oh, right. Definitely.
It was all fantasy. That data we talked about, all about points against. Right. So hopefully that if you're still tuned in, Max, that helps rest your mind a little bit there because it was all about points against.
Rest your mind. Mike
we got it.
Real fantasy hero, Ryan Nall, interesting at all?
No.
Really.
Simple answer, no. I mean, David Montgomery did get concussed, so I guess like if you're – I don't know. I can't sit here and say play Ryan Nall.
Why are we talking about this right now?
But the only thing is that we saw the schedule, right? So crazy world. Talk about some crazy world where Ryan Nall gets a start this week because Montgomery's out. And what if Ryan Nall just goes berserk? Is that going to happen? No. But if you have trash on your roster, especially because he plays Monday night too, which is the thing I like about him. Nobody's thinking about Ryan Nall right now. But after Sunday, a lot of leagues will let you, if the Monday night game hasn't happened yet, pick up guys that have yet to play, right? So maybe you could cut whatever shit bum on your team doesn't perform.
Maybe you're like, oh, what if Ryan Nall goes in and has just like runs for 250 yards? What do you say then? Well, shit. What would you say if like Anthony Lynn all of a sudden like became like a chess grandmaster or something like that? You'd be pretty fucking shocked, right? Like There's a lot of things that could happen. My money's not on that happening.
No, me neither. But it just
it could. Sure, it could.
If you have trash and you can make that Monday night move, and Montgomery's not playing, so you can just hear the ands and the ands and the ands, which is usually a sign of a bad player. But he did score last week. He can catch the ball. So, depending on how trash your bench is, okay, maybe. Way too much time on Ryan Nall there.
Mike Clay, James Robinson III. Right.
Monster. Absolute monster player. Unbelievable. The best pickup of the
only
year.
League I got Kyler was as a keeper in the 10th round from last year, first place. Yeah, I mean, those are the best ones is when you end up having this guy in some sort of like keeper or dynasty situation, and you end up having him, and then it's like printing your own money.
Exactly. And especially, too, Mike, if you get to keep him next year, because he's going to be going in round 3, round 2 probably in leagues where Mahomes and Lamar are getting drafted. So you got yourself a stud.
Giuseppe Russo. Who should I try and grab for Gibson and AB combo, preferably a wide receiver, PPR?
Got some intriguing juice there. Like
Allen Robinson, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe an Allen Robinson. Who everybody
Allen Robinson?
I think Giuseppe might even actually have Allen Robinson already, if I remember his questions correctly. But again, we talked about some of those easy schedules. Like, that's too much for like a Robert Woods. I wouldn't give up both those guys to get a Robert Woods, but maybe Gibson just for Robert Woods. Maybe you could sell AB's name to get Robert Woods. I wouldn't give both those guys up. They have juicy name value. But yeah, you mentioned an Allen Robinson. If he's not there, you could maybe try to get like Terry McLaurin, the fourth easiest schedule. Maybe Stephon Diggs, if you could somehow pull that off. That's the range I'm looking in. You're not going to get a Tyreek Hill. You're not going to get a DK Metcalf. Like, there's that tier. And then there's this tier of the Terrys, the Robinsons, and the Diggses. Yeah. Diggs is really probably honestly closer to that top tier than he is the second tier. But I'd say that's where you want to start setting your sights. That would be pretty nice if you could land a McLaurin or a Robinson.
And it's unfortunate that Bucks game was such a stinker, because even a little something would have drastically boosted what people would be willing to give you for AB. I'm not that shaken actually by the fact that he didn't do much. I am choosing to view that game as an anomaly.
Exactly. In fact, I might even try to buy low. I thought he looked pretty good. Like the times he looked fun. He looked smooth as he's ever looked. He made some crazy like contested grabs. I'm looking to get him if people are freaking out about that dud game.
Robert Sled traded Zeke and Fuller for Julio.
I like it.
That's a good trade.
I like that. That's the way you use Zeke. You give a good player like Fuller, and then Zeke with the name value, and you get a big upgrade on Fuller. Julio's a monster right now. So yeah, I like that Robert Sled, and I like the name Robert Sled. That's a cool name.
Yeah, it's solid. Mike Clay, I got A-Rob from McKinnon and T. Higgins weeks ago.
Woo!
Great deal.
Fleeced him. Absolutely fleeced him. And I love T. Higgins, but that's a good win.
I love Robinson more.
Yes.
Giuseppe Russo, trade Gibson and AB for T. Higgins for just Gibson for Higgins, half-point PPR.
That was a hard or go for
Fulgham. You give me a lot of options here, dude.
I don't know what you're talking about, Giuseppe. Try to get that one together, man.
Denny Jennings. So with Kupp, AB, and John Brown having easy schedules, would you trade Julio? I'm currently first overall. Also, I have Dalvin Cook. I mean, for the right deal, I would trade anybody. But yeah, I mean, your receiving core is pretty solid. I mean, AB is still a little bit of a question mark.
Right.
John Brown is not that established of it. I mean, he's definitely good, but I mean, he's not somebody I'm trying to build my receiving core around. It depends what you could get for him. I would be hesitant to give up a wide receiver slot for a guy like Julio when that's all you got. I'd rather have John Brown or AB as being like a flex option or somebody you can have on your bench if somebody gets hurt.
Exactly. I think you said it perfectly. Like the other thing to consider with all these moves and all these trades, of course you want to get better for playoff time, but you also don't want to ruin team chemistry. You don't want to send out a guy that's been killing it for you like Julio. He's a good locker room presence. He's a leader. He's a veteran. He's done it before. He can help your young guys come along. I'm a big fan of just kind of keeping, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, unless you're getting a clear win. You have a great setup with like Julio and then Kupp is a clear 1, high end 2. And then like AB and John Brown, you can kind of figure out which one becomes your steady wide receiver 3 down the stretch. If you take Julio out of that equation, you're putting a lot more question marks in your lineup. So you better be getting something real good. I typically don't see a trade that's going to really intrigue me without knowing more there.
Mitch Chavez, Mecole Hardman has been put on the COVID list. They're on bye, but something to maybe watch. Oh, yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really care about it in the sense of Hardman, but you're right. I mean, he's probably around a bunch of these guys.
Exactly. And that's like the tricky part is all these trades, like none of this analysis might matter in a couple of weeks with COVID that's starting to run rampant right now. The NFL baking in a couple, 8 teams could make the playoffs if games start getting canceled. Like it's scary. I think we don't talk about it much on this show because we're kind of the ignorance is bliss mindset of like, until it's shut down, we have football and let's rejoice in that. But yeah, it's getting scary out there. So I think it's a good wake-up call to think about those things too.
Mike Keenan, I traded Taylor and T. Higgins for Swift and Fulgham. Full PPR, 10-man, 1 QB, 7-2 record. What do you think?
Taylor, I don't like. I like Higgins, but Swift, I like Fulgham.
Swift and I like Fulgham too.
I like Fulgham and Higgins just about the same. So I'd rather have Swift at this point than Taylor because they both have juicy schedules, and I think Swift has the path to clear to volume there. So yeah, I guess I don't know. It's a kind of like I can't say you're a clear winner. Yeah. I don't think you're a loser at the same time. So at that point, it's like I don't know. I never like doing trades that just kind of like level out. But with Fulgham's schedule, maybe that's the kicker there. Right. You know, that's what I'm thinking.
Mitch Chavez, I've got Hill and Mahomes now together for the rest of season.
Yeah.
Congrats, bud. I'm jealous.
As long as the COVID doesn't run rampant there,
right?
Then you're looking pretty good.
Denny Jennings, Wolf, Fulgham forgives you.
Thank you. I have Denny's and
seems like a decent fella.
Yes, he's a good guy. Good old Fulgham.
Denny Jennings also says, I also have Robbie Anderson.
Well, I have him above either.
Well, I mean, that's you're burying the lead, Denny.
Yeah, exactly. On, man. Way better option.
Mitch Chavez with so much attention on Metcalf. How do you see Lockett doing rest of season and playoffs? I have no idea.
It's tricky.
So tough, man.
Because it's not like that's really changed. Like Metcalf has been drawing more attention. You're going to get your blow up and you're going to get your duds. Like that's Lockett. You got to just kind of accept it. And you can't really bench him because he could just literally turn your week over. But you also, 50. Yeah, exactly. 50 on Monday night. You're just not going to. The ones that he's blown up in have been pretty predictable, like easy matchups, and you don't have those moving forward. So it does worry me a little. If you can spin Lockett into a nice deal, I wouldn't hate that by any means.
Gabby Tal, Herbert or Lamar rest of season? Herbert.
How crazy is this that it is Herbert? I agree with you.
It's literally not even stopping to consider it. It's Herbert.
It's Herbert. Yeah, it's absolutely Herbert.
Taylor Malone, leave Jacob Cook.
There must be somebody watching that he is not. He's probably trying to pick up advice or signals or something. I don't know. Leave All Jacob Cook. I don't know what that means, but Jacob Cook, get out of here.
Man, leave. Mitch Chavez, in regards to YouTube, just got breaking news they're experiencing a major outage at the moment. Yeah, CJ was all over that, Mitch.
Yeah, 2 hours ago, Mitch. CJ beat you to that punch.
There we go. Kyle Tuneberg, Parker does have a bump in volume with Preston Williams going down. Yeah.
Yeah, he will. True. Again, tough schedule, though. We'll see.
James Wyndham, Tannehill, or Wentz rest of the season. Man, I would lean Tannehill.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I understand the intriguing reasons you might be looking at Wentz, but I mean, Tannehill, since he took over the job last year, has been consistently a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I think top 8, top 9, something like that.
Yeah.
I would go with Tannehill. I mean, I just would. He's got weapons around him. He's a pretty good quarterback. He's a pretty good runner. It would be hard for me to jump to Wentz if I had the option.
Yep, I'm with fully aligned there. Tannehill just his schedule, like he gets it done in tough matchups because this offense is just so hyper efficient. I get the Wentz like juice of the schedule. The ceiling is Wentz. Like I don't think Tannehill. We've seen him blow up, but he doesn't.
We have seen him blow up.
Right matchups. He doesn't have a ton of those green light matchups where we've seen the blowups of the past. So I do think Wentz might have a path to a bigger ceiling. If you're like, I'm desperate and I want that like win now, huge ceiling. It could be Wentz, but yeah, 9 out of 10 times I'm going Tannehill here.
Taylor Malone, loved this stream, real helpful. Thanks. Sorry we didn't understand whatever the last thing was you said.
Leave, Jacob.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for tuning in, Taylor. I'm happy it's helpful. And again, like we present all this data. I do want to emphasize, like it does matter. That's why we spent a whole hour on it. But it's also when you have guys like DK. I know you asked that question about DK earlier. There's just some things that it matters for, and there's some things that it doesn't. I love to see my studs have an easy calendar because, then they could blow it up even more. But when my studs like Rodgers, Kyler, and Russell all had the hardest quarterback schedules, well, at the end of the day, nothing's stopping those guys. So there's you react, and then there's some things you just got to have that common sense too. But I'm glad you liked it. I think there's very few people that do content of the strength of schedule, at least to this extent. So I'm glad you found it useful for sure.
Quinn Hartman, if I give up David Johnson, well, no harm there. DJ Chark and Shepard for Miles Sanders, is that too much? I have Aaron Jones, and my wide receivers are Mike Thomas, Terry, and Thielen. I
don't think so.
I don't think it's too much. I mean, DJ Chark's the only one I really give a shit about. And I mean, he's kind of hit or miss. I'm not like completely sold on him. No, I don't think it's too much. Might be nice to even clear out a little of that roster space.
Exactly. Like the guys will be able to pick up or what have you. I'm always in favor if I can turn like 3 meh guys into a stud. And Miles Sanders is risky.
But he's the stud of this group.
He is absolutely far and away like top 15 in my rest of season big board. Has a pretty nice schedule moving forward. And when he's been healthy, he's been an 80% snap guy. Like he's been the horse for Doug Peterson. I wonder if that will lessen just a little bit because of the injuries. But even still, you're looking at 60 to 70% of the snaps and the work. I like this deal a lot. This is the type of championship winning move to move some of these meh pieces, especially some that don't have great schedules, and get a guy like Miles Sanders to pair with Aaron Jones down the stretch, especially with the depth you have at wide receiver. Like I think that's a great move. I'm not down on that at all.
Detroit Rams, these guys are hilarious. Thanks.
Hey, at least one person finds this funny, Nat. There we go.
I'll bet it's more than that. They're just not speaking up. Feel free, speak up.
Tell us how funny.
Skeptivus one. What's up, Wolf? Saw you yesterday. LOL.
What, like outside?
I know. You're like,
he was on the.
I'm
typhoon.
watching you right now.
Yeah, he's like creeping around the closet over there. Oh, hey, what's up, Inceptivus? He was on the broadcast, the guest spot I did. So he's one of Typhoon's long-term fans. So cool to see you. You found me and you're still following the content. That's great stuff, man. I appreciate that. Makes it that much better to go on that stream. I think Typhoon's the man, but then to have other of his fans come and join us here, sweet. I hope you stick around back for a while, Inceptivus. Awesome. Yeah, I know you're a great fan for him, so hopefully we can have you aboard over here too.
Kyle Tuneberg, YouTube went down. We know, Kyle. That's been kicked around the message board.
Exactly. We found that out quite some time ago.
Detroit Rams, the bee's knees. Yes, the bee's knees. That's correct.
What's that for?
We're the bee's knees.
Oh, we're the bee's knees. Okay, yeah.
I'm hoping so.
I feel like that's like an expression like my grandma, like, oh, that was the bee's knees. Like I haven't ever used that in my life, but I'll take it. I'll be the bee's knees any day.
I'll take.
Why is the bee's knees an expression? Like, do like, bees even?
No, it's the business. It's like slang way of saying the business.
Oh shit! Yeah, I completely missed that one. Fuck. I was like, bees knees. Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense. The bees knees. Thank you,
Kyle Tuneberg. I have YouTube TV and it wasn't working either. Well, shit, that's the stream that the Wolf's letting me share. So I hope that comes back on soon.
You're smuggling off my YouTube TV over there for the red zone, but that's what we got. A huge recap show. I gotta have the
seriously. I love it. It's
that better be up by Sunday. That's like literally the only time I use YouTube TV. I'll pay for it every month, and it's just to watch Red Zone, and I love it.
And it's worth it, right?
It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
MPX 1606. I just traded Brady and Fournette for Nick Chubb. Who won the trade, in your opinion?
I like it. I'm on your side.
I like it too.
Chubb's a monster. Like he's
coming back fresh, man.
Like when you asked that question earlier, Nat, like 65 rushing yards and a touchdown in every game. My mind went right to Nick Chubb, and then I was like, "Well, wait, he hasn't been in." Like, but when he's in, he's the best pure runner. Like he is. I'm so excited that he's going to be back, just as a football fan. And let me run this one by you now. I think I sent it to the group today. I'm in a win now spot. I've had Christian McCaffrey in my league. He's kind of tanking me.
He's out again,
unfortunately. It was an auction league, so I paid off the ass, and it kind of left me weak everywhere else. So to not have that stud, when I've had him, I've won. When I don't have him, I haven't been so hot. So I'm in that position.
And you've usually not had him.
Exactly.
Right.
I could still make the playoffs. The league is, I'm 4-5. I'm right in that hunt, but I lost McCaffrey for this week again, and I can't lose a game. If I lose a game, I'm out at this point. So I got offered from a guy that's, a smart move by him, top of the league right now. He offered me Chubb and Herbert for Christian McCaffrey, and I'm also not great at quarterback either. And you never want to trade Christian.
Herbert's an upgrade.
Herbert's an upgrade over everybody except like 3 guys.
Chubb's not back this week, is he? Is he back?
He's supposed to be back this week. Otherwise, I would never even consider it.
Okay. I mean, well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say you can't trade an injured running back for another injured running back.
Right.
I really might think about doing it. I mean, your season's on the line. Maybe you can get something else. Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but like, you got to do something. You're going to lose otherwise.
Exactly. The locker room needs an injection, and as much as I love Christian, I think it sends a message. And if Chubb comes, he's facing Houston this weekend, right? Like that's the jokest of all joke rundies.
I would say pull the trigger. I mean, I would wince as I was doing it, but I would say probably do it.
It's like my heart will go on. We'll be playing in the background, Celine Dion, but I think I'm going to make the move. We'll see. But
how old does Justin Herbert look to you?
like 12 with acne.
What the fuck is up with that, man?
Exactly.
I saw him and I was just like, who's that kid? Is he like the ball boy or something? I don't know. Like I cannot believe how he looks.
It's crazy. It's literally like you took like a monster's body, a human man, and then just took like a 12-year-old struggling with like his pimple.
Isn't he like 6'5",
240?
I mean, he's a big dude. And then when you look at him, if you just see up close, like he looks like the squeaky voiced teen from The Simpsons.
Right, exactly. Right. Pepperoni pizza. I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Who's our next guy?
Oh, we were on that one. We already
were just gonna say YouTube is back. All right, YouTube's back, everybody.
Oh, did we? I don't even know if we answered this one. I think
we did.
I kind of got.
We said we like Chubb.
I said I love Chubb. Just want to make sure I didn't.
Brian Martinez, trade Woods and Gibson for Michael Thomas and Rojo, half PPR. I'd rather have.
That's hard.
I'd rather have Mike Thomas and Rojo.
Like Thomas, if he hits his ceiling, this trade is a monster.
It's a landslide.
Landslide. Right. That's the word I was looking for. If not, though, like he was back last week. He looked decent, but like 5 for 50. I don't know. Like I love Woods' schedule. I still think Gibson, the best is yet to come. I mean, who knows? JD McKissick, 14 fucking targets this week. Like what was that? But I don't like Rojo's useless to me. The way that backfield's devolved, nothing to do with Rojo. So it's essentially Woods and Gibson for Michael Thomas. I'd rather, if I'm trading Woods and Gibson as a package, I want something a little more safe. It's crazy to think that Michael Thomas isn't safe when he was literally the safest player you could ever have had coming into the year. Like there were 10 targets a week. Like it was even more than that last year. There was
like nobody. 15. Didn't he have like 150 catches?
It was crazy. Yeah, he had like 170 targets and caught like 150 balls. It was insane. Yeah. So if you get that, like if that ends up happening the rest of the year, and their schedule's not horrible,
you want the piece of this trade that has Thomas in it.
I don't know that I do. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced we're gonna see that Mike Thomas this year.
You don't even have to see that. Well, I'm not convinced you're gonna see that Mike Thomas either. You don't have to see that Mike Thomas to win this trade.
I don't know.
You just have. What did he do last game?
5 for 50. Sanders had the touchdown.
That's it, really?
Yeah, that's it. 50? Kamara, 5 for 50.
I'm surprised. I feel like I was watching in and I was coming in and out, and every time I came in, he was catching a ball. So maybe that's skewing my opinion.
If he does this trade, then for his sake, Truth, then you better watch just the next game, because it sounds like Mike Thomas is waiting for you to turn his game on. The truth's washing. Let me make sure to pick my game up here and get open.
Yeah, man. I'm a believer in Mike Thomas. I was in early on Mike Thomas, if you recall.
We were as a site. I loved Mike Thomas, but I don't know, something about this year. Like I don't love that deal. I feel like you're giving up a lot, but I don't know. I would see if you can get something other than Rojo. And then I'm into it, because Thomas is the best like potential of this deal. Yeah.
Sarah Riley. I was wondering if Sarah Riley was going to come. We always get one question from her. Have Fant and Jonnu. Yeah, but someone just dropped Hooper. Should I drop Jonnu for Hooper? I
would.
Yeah,
I would. I like Jonnu a lot, but his early season monster stats, like I think 5 touchdowns in 4 games, was tight end 2 in fantasy. Now that everybody's back and healthy, AJ Brown was gone for a lot of that time. Corey Davis was in and out. He's definitely become a very distant third, and it's going to be that playoff Henry, just pound Henry. I would rather see Hooper, that light schedule, the steady targets. I'd rather have Hooper than Jonnu. Yes, I think I have to check my rest of season big board, because I don't think I have that as the what it currently reflects. But I like that definitely.
Mitch Chavez, thanks, CJ. Yep.
A little late, but yes.
The 23 Airman trying to trade for Mike Thomas. My quarterbacks are Breeze and Wentz. My running backs, Derrick Henry, James Conner, J.K. Dobbins. Wide receivers, McLaurin, Galladay, Cooper, Rager, Myers, tight end, Hunter Henry, and Reed. Thoughts or ideas for MT trades? Man, there's a lot of those guys I don't like. I don't have any great ideas. I feel like if someone was open to being swindled, there are a few things that you could maybe throw their way.
It's a really tough, because you're not trading Derrick Henry in a deal for him. You're not. I would say I'd rather have McLaurin, to be honest. Like me personally, rest of season. the thing is if you get rid of okay, so you're going to do a package to get him for if you could do just Connor for him, okay, but then you're left with only Dobbins.
Would you trade Mike Thomas for Connor?
Probably not. I'd probably rather have Connor.
You would?
I think. I don't know.
There's a lot of Mike Thomas hate coming from you right now.
I'm not. I am admittedly lower on Thomas rest of the season than I think most people are. So I'm coming from
it's
this.
not like I don't understand, but
Yeah.
I think that I think that this guy is. He's a year removed from being the best receiver in football.
Sure is, and it's a whole different year. He's been the biggest headache in football this year, and I don't know. I don't want my team to stop respecting me for welcoming in this headache. To me, this is a tricky one because I don't see what you could offer that would get like you said, James Conner. I don't know that gets it done. For a lot of people, it probably wouldn't. And that schedule coming from Conner, but then also with your team, if you get rid of Conner, your running back too is Dobbins.
Dobbins, what do you have, 30 yards?
Yeah, scary. That's your running back too. And if you get rid of I would love to see if you could package away Cooper or any of those receivers, sure, but I don't know. I just don't see what your path is to actually get a deal done with those weapons. Really, the only thing you have that's intriguing is Derrick Henry and Mclaurin in terms of the level of Thomas, and I wouldn't give up either of those guys to go get him. So I don't know. I'm not into it. I don't think you can find. I don't see what works here. I'm sorry, Airman. I wish I could offer more help.
Giuseppe Russo, trade both AB and Gibsons for T. Higgins, or am I giving too much for him? Would you rather go for Higgins or Fulgham PPR?
Yeah,
who do you like better PPR, Higgins or Fulgham?
I like Fulgham better. The schedule, the number one status. I don't think either of those guys are worth both AB and Gibson. One of them, okay.
I agree.
But that's a lot to get Higgins and Fulgham. I would be setting my sights higher than either of those guys for those two players.
Make 91, 55, 946, CEH and Devonte Parker for Miles Sanders. Ooh.
I think I do it. I'm off the CEH train at this point. We've seen it. We've seen what we've seen.
Makes me nervous. But I'd probably do it.
If Sanders stays healthy, he's definitely going to outscore CEH the rest of the way. And then Parker's just meh. So I go Sanders there.
Blue Crew leaning towards starting T. Higgins. A lot of T. Higgins questions over Godwin this week. PPR. I'm already starting Thielen and Kupp at wide receiver. Your thoughts, please. Thank you. Who do you like better, T. Higgins or Godwin PPR?
I don't hate the T. Higgins move here. The Bucs receivers could get infuriating. Now, I'm trying to think of the matchups off the top of my head here this week. Can you look up who the Bucs have? I normally am fucking immediate with these things, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll look at the Bengals.
Yeah, they're at Carolina. The Bucs are at Carolina.
Not a great matchup. They've limited receivers pretty well this year. The Bengals have
the Bengals have Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so that's not a great matchup either. I don't love either of these guys, to be honest, this week, but
I'm going Godwin.
I think you side with the talent here. And I think that's Godwin. Even though Higgins is very talented, I go Godwin here.
Jacob 8. This week, should I roll with Lamar or Teddy?
Great to see you, Bates. And I got to go Teddy in a tough matchup versus the Bucs. Although is the Bucs that tough of a matchup after they just got their pants ripped down by the
jury's out on that one right now.
Seriously. Lamar, the Ravens are facing who this week? Why am I blanking on it?
What is this? Where's this computer? They're playing the Patriots, just so you know.
Oh yeah, from my own fucking Patriots. I would probably play Lamar, but we just saw what Joe Flacco fucking did.
That's true. Flacco lit the shit out of the Patriots. Might as well go Lamar, and then if Lamar doesn't get that done, then we'll know it's officially over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Lamar there.
Jimmy 2 times. Breeze or Wentz rest of the season. I'll let you field this one.
This is a tricky one. I like Breeze though. I mean, when he got that Mike Thomas back, Breeze has been quietly steady all week or all year rather. Multiple touchdowns in all but one game. And then Thomas comes back and he threw 4 touchdowns this last week. I get Taysom Hill is so annoying, and the fact that you have to deal with that as a Breeze owner is one reason to hate him. But their schedule is not bad. Even though Wentz's is real tasty, I gotta lean with.
I'm going Breeze. I know it's not sexy. I'm going Breeze.
Yeah.
Danny Jennings, thanks for all the info, guys. Cheers. P.S. Allen Robinson. Thanks, Danny. Hope to see you on Sunday and the following Wednesday and whenever. And Mitch Chavez says thank you guys as always. Thank you, man. Seriously.
Sure thing.
Fusion, Herbert or Allen rest of the season. I hope you're not talking about.
I think I go Herbert.
For a second, when I read that, I in my head was Kyle Allen. I was like, what the fuck kind of stupid question is this? And then I remembered there was another Allen that was pretty good. I'd also go Herbert.
I do like Herbert. Oh, and by the way, Mitch and Denny, thank you guys again. That's said for me, but thank you guys so much for coming out every single time.
Mitch also wants to know rest of the season and playoffs thoughts on Godwin. I'm cautiously optimistic, Mitch. I really am.
The schedule's there. The schedule's there, especially in the playoffs, for him to do some damage. It's just like, how are all these three going to coexist and which one's going to really separate, if any? Godwin probably has the better path. I'd probably have Godwin at the top of all these Bucs receivers, but I also have all of them rest of season, like in my 20s now. When entering the season, those guys were top 7, both him and Evans. So it's been a downfall, but it's tricky.
They're still legit fantasy producing. I'm not trying to get off these guys unless somebody makes it worth my while, of course.
And let's say, who's to say Antonio Brown stays, keeps his nose clean the rest of the year? Like, that's a big F too.
Right. Taylor Malone, what about AJ Brown for Swift and Robinson? Which Robinson?
That's Allen Robinson, and I like that. I don't want to do DK, but I think AJ Brown and Robinson are pretty similar.
I would definitely do it on that end. It seems like a fleecing almost. Yeah,
so go from DK to AJ. Yeah, I like that for sure. AJ Brown and Robinson, very comparable to me. So then you're just kind of getting a Swift toss in with that beautiful schedule. I like that. I like that a lot.
909 Orbit. Should I trade AB and Rob Woods for Chubb? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
My other running backs are Connor, Zeke, J.K. Galdman. Wide receivers, Diggs, A-Rob, Hollywood, Mike Will. He doesn't want Zeke, LOL. Well, who the fuck can blame him? I would do it if I were you.
Absolutely. But those receivers, you already have 2 studs in Diggs and A-Rob, and your running back core. Connor's the anchor, and you never want that because the injury could happen at any point. And I think Chubb's about to go berserk. Like, Hunt just did not take over like I think a lot of people thought he could. This is going to become the y'all right over there. Yeah. Long day for the truth.
It has been a long day. Giuseppe Russo, guy won't go for A-Rob. Should I try Gibson for AB and Woods and AB for Woods? Gibson and AB for Woods. And if you could give me 3 wide receiver options, you might target.
I think we already gave you a bunch, Giuseppe. I don't think I would do Gibson and AB for Woods. Now that's still a little too low for me, given what AB could become and what I think Gibson could become. I still think you're in that range of like, try for a Terry McLaurin, try for those guys. But no, I wouldn't want any of these. AJ Brown, maybe Will Fuller, maybe Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I mean,
where I would go.
We disagreed on that a little bit. I mean, if we disagree on him that way, there's probably other people that have differing opinions as well. You might end up like getting a deal.
Yeah, there you go.
J.Y. Jerkins. What do you think, DeAndre? What do you think of DeAndre Washington in Miami?
I haven't thought about it once, and I don't really plan to after this question. I will say this: Myles Gaskin's hurt, and the whoever they had fill in last week is Jordan Howard, classic 16 for 19 yards. Like, the dude is awful, just awful. And Salvin Ahmed was the next one up, so like maybe there's a path to some 3 down work. Washington did some good things as the featured guy, but you're going to have to be in a pretty damn deep league for me to be like, yeah, go sprint and get DeAndre Washington. Not much thought about him.
I haven't thought much about him either. He also wants to know T. Higgins or Jacoby Myers, PPR. Higgins.
Yep. Higgins for me.
Giuseppe lost by 0.44. Oh, shit. In one league. And then 0.8 in my other. Really tough past week. Need to get a dub this week, boys. Fingers crossed. I'm sorry, man. That sucks. 2 weeks ago, we don't play partial points. I know we should.
Yeah.
But I lost by 1 point 2 weeks ago, and then this week I won by 1 point. So it's been a roller coaster for the truth over here. But I'm really sorry you got 2 losses like that. Those stick with you.
You won't be sleeping for this whole week. Hopefully we can get it right for you this week, Giuseppe. As Denny Jennings says here, tequila and fantasy football talk better together. Open up that tequila, Giuseppe. We'll pour one out for you. That's tough. That's tough stuff.
The end. Hey, all right. Hey guys, who would I trade Judy for, and who are the other wide receivers on his level? It's so tough to answer that question in a vacuum as far as who would you trade him for. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a smartass. I really just don't know.
I'd say the better way to answer this is just go to RoastRejournal.com. I'm not just doing this to pump our own stuff, but go to RoastRejournal.com, go to the rest of season big board, and that will give you a sense of like what running backs, what receivers, what everything I have around Judy. But I will say I'm a little lower on Judy than I think the consensus is, just because that schedule is going to get tough. And I think this was the best we're going to see out of him this year. I think he's unbelievable. I just am not a big believer in Drew Lock. And I'm not a believer in his schedule. So I think that this would be the time to sell high. But check out that rest of season big board at the end. That'll give you a much better sense of who I have around him.
Detroit Rams, there's a high level scenario for you. I have Kyler Murray, Carson, Connor, Tyreek, Bobby Trees.
Okay.
Right.
I like high scenarios.
High level.
Yep.
Gesicki and Chubb in my flex with bench players of DJ Chark, Mike Evans, Jonnu, and P. Ryan. All right. Do I stand pat, try to upgrade at running back or in package, or upgrade at tight end?
I think the only real weakness here is your tight end, Gesicki.
Yeah, but that's a common weakness that people have. I mean, you could do worse than Gesicki, and there's not that many people that are going to do way better than Gesicki.
Right.
Is the thing. I wouldn't shake it up too much. I mean,
no. I would say though, with your depth, I mean, Carson, Connor, and Chubb, could you do like a Connor and an Evans and get like a real top end option? Because those are two pretty big names, at least Connor and Evans.
Well, what about even Carson, who I consider far better name than Connor, but who is I believe hardest strength of schedule maybe.
Yeah.
Was it just wide receivers and quarterback?
Nope,
running backs was up there too. I mean, I have Carson. I'm a Carson owner. I love the guy. But if you're going to take that into account, and he could maybe entice somebody to give you something a little more, maybe at least be open-minded to dealing him too.
Exactly. You have the depth. I would be trying to package. I would be packaging up whichever, I'm not moving Tyreek. I'm not moving Kyler. Any of those, I wouldn't move Chubb, to be honest. I want Chubb on my team.
At this point, you want to see what you can get out of him.
Yeah, and as much as I like Bobby Tree's schedule, like if he's the one that gets it done instead of Evans, then okay. I would be trying to package some stuff up and get to that next level of wide receiver or running back. Get the elite guy for a couple like low end ones. I like that deal for you.
Hayden Tobin, you guys think I should trade Allen for Lamar or Brady?
Who's that? Josh Allen? I would probably stand pat. I like the upside of him. Brady more so than Lamar, but nah, I wouldn't be into that.
Agreed. Danny Jennings, Wentz just fumbled.
Sounds about right. Sounds absolutely about right.
Brian Martinez, it's a tough trade. Yep. Yeah, we struggled with it. Bobby Shmurda, would you trade Mike Thomas and Chris Godwin for Fulgham and Crowder? I would not. The Wolf.
No, I would not. That's like just the star power. You know me, Nat. I'm a star fucker. I would not ever give up Mike Thomas and Godwin for the names of Fulgham and Crowder. No way. Even in PPR. No way.
Giuseppe Russo, trade Gibson and AB for
Josh
Josh
one
Allen.
Again.
Trade Gibson and AB for Josh Allen straight up, or try to add Marvin Jones to the Allen side PPR. Marvin Jones doesn't have a ton of value.
Why are you trying so hard to trade AB and Gibson? They both have some serious upside. Like, stop asking about those two.
But it is interesting. So the guys in my league they'll fixate on one or two guys in their roster, and they're just like, I'm going to deal these guys, and they'll like throw out those guys to every team in the league for somebody.
Yeah.
Brian Martinez, I kind of like Rojo in real life. So does CJ. CJ loves Rojo.
Yeah.
No hands, but he runs hard. Yeah, that's fair.
I agree. Every time I watch him play, I like him. What I don't like is if he puts the ball on the ground, Bruce Arians will take him out for 3 straight weeks. Like,
I know. It's like, come on, man. This ain't like middle school.
Exactly. Like, he gets it. He's sorry. He's going to protect it more. You don't have to bench him the rest of the fucking game. Like, I hate that type of risk exists with him every week, that it could be the first play of the game and you might not see him again. I don't like that.
I don't like it either. Aiden Tobin trying to trade Jones or Henry. What would you say overpaying is?
I wouldn't trade either of those guys, as we said.
Man, don't do that.
The playoff schedule, they have literally the easiest 2 playoff schedules. So if you get into the playoffs, those are both 2 of the few running backs that can get you 40. I would, you better be getting like 2 studs, like beyond studs, to give up those guys. I saw one trade I got asked about today. Someone was like, I think it was Tyreek Hill and Ridley for Henry. I was like, okay, I can do that. But other than, there's very, very few trades that I would give up Henry or Aaron Jones for at this point.
Bobby Schmurda, Mixon for Connor, PPR. Yeah.
I'd probably rather have Mixon.
I would probably rather have Mixon too. I can't believe I'm saying it.
Yeah, I would. I would too.
Aiden Tobin, Bengals got a good schedule, then their playoffs are a nightmare. Yeah.
It's true. But you got to get into the playoffs to make sure it happens. So
right. Javonte Yarbrough, Eric Ebron, or Austin Hooper.
I prefer Hooper just a little bit.
By a little. But again, these guys, there's not much to differentiate between these guys.
No, and they both have good schedules. So I think Hooper just has the steadier path to volume.
Giuseppe Russo, thanks, guys, as always. No problem.
Thank you for tuning in, as always, Giuseppe.
Drop Hollywood to pick up Rieger. Maybe.
Oh, fuck.
I dropping Hollywood seems – I don't know.
It seems crazier than it should be. Like, it's like, oh, drop Hollywood? No. My gut reaction is like, never. Because it's Hollywood. He's so good.
Maybe.
But in this offense, with the way that Lamar is just a bitch and the squeaky wheel's not getting greased, like, yeah, I think so.
Denny Jennings, beer emojis all over the place, and some shots.
I love it. Denny Jennings is turning up on a Wednesday night. That's what the fullback dive will do to you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. This is Kyle Tuneberg. You too, Kyle.
Always tunes.
Trees and venison. No name. Should I trade Galladay for Mike Evans? Standard scoring. I mean, I'd way rather have Mike Evans.
Yeah, I'd rather have Mike Evans too, yeah.
Aiden Tobin, I got Kelsey or Michigan legend. Should I change anything or try to package and upgrade somewhere? Quarterback, Wilson. Running backs, Henry, Jacobs, Mike Davis, Duke, Gus. Wide receivers, DK, Thielen, Kupp, Fuller, D. Johnson, and Hollywood. Tight ends, Mark Andrews. I actually think you're pretty good, man. I mean, Jacobs and Davis are – all right, so your running backs after Henry or Lazzie.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe if you're trying to upgrade somewhere, that's where you look. But other than that, your team's pretty great.
Yeah, I would say if you can make a move where you move like Jacobs and Fuller and get like a rock solid guy behind Henry, okay. But otherwise, yeah, this is a roster I'm not really going to mess or tinker with. You're looking real solid there, Michigan.
Quinn Hartman, Thielen, and John Taylor for Allen Robinson, too much. Probably. Thielen is kind of on that level, right? I mean, I don't know. To me, this personally would come down to like who I personally liked. Because I consider Thielen and Robinson pretty comparable. Last time I checked, Thielen was maybe a tiny bit above Robinson as far as points. I don't know if that's still the case. Taylor's not great. Yeah. I mean, if you really, really like Allen Robinson, you should do it.
Yeah, similar to you, I have Thielen and Robinson at a pretty similar level, in which case it's like Jonathan Taylor, it seems like a throwaway, but there is just –
He's not worthless, though. He's not
very
worthless.
Slim chance, but slim chance – that the schedule is just such a joke. So if he does ever take over, I don't think it happens, but if he does, he could be a monster for a couple weeks. And so to get like a maybe 1 spot upgrade in my rankings between Robinson and Thielen, it's not worth it. I'd rather just have Taylor on my bench and see like maybe he just breaks out.
Aiden Tobin says I got Kelsey and Hopkinson. Hopkinson or Hopkins?
Hopkinson. Probably Hawkinson is my guess.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hopkinson, who has put up over 10 in every healthy game. If I trade Kelsey, what should I get in return? I'm 9-0, looking for the playoffs. Full PPR. Don't trade Kelsey, dude.
No.
Seriously. Don't even think about it. No. Weren't you? Didn't you just ask about wanting to trade Jones and Henry too?
Yeah.
You're 9-0. You got Kelsey. You got Jones. You got Henry. Hey, man, just relax.
Let it ride. Yeah, Kelsey, the easiest playoff schedule. You're 9-0. You're gonna get Atlanta in week 16 in your championship with Kelsey. That's 30 points. Just lock it in. Like that's
Take it easy. Enjoy it. Like have a couple beers.
Yeah.
Detroit Ram says the truth looks like Gronk. To be honest, too much party rocking. LOL. Dude, join the party of everybody who says that.
This is the thing. I think we've had.
You cannot deny anymore that this is a real thing.
Clearly,
I don't know any of these people, and I don't know any of the people that see
who
me.
Who are you paying? You're paying these people.
People approach me in town and They don't think I'm Gronk because I'm clearly not like 6'6", 265. I'm like slightly above average sized guy, but I'm not like Gronk. But people are coming up to me and everybody tells me I look like Gronk.
And I think we've done 6 of these now, and we've gotten this at least 3 or 4.
At least 4 times from different people.
I still don't see it, but yeah. This is the last 2 we got here, and we'll cut it off at Brian Martinez at the next one.
All right. Michigan Legend says, what running backs do you think are above Jacobs? Lots of them. Just curious. Might try to upgrade him. So not to pump up the Wolf stuff again, but you should check out the RSJ depth board because rather than me rattling like 10 guys off the top of my head that are better, you can actually see specifically. So yeah, go to Rose Street Journal and check out rest of the season rankings, and you'll see exactly where. And of course, we do it every week too if you're looking week by week. But exactly. We'll put a ton of work into it. Brian Martinez, great stream, guys. Love your site. One last point: CEH is a true buy low. I agree with you, Brian. It's more Andy Reid barely running the ball in a small sample size than Bell ruining things. I agree with Brian, and thanks for the compliment. Yeah,
I see. I agree. It's not Bell ruining things, but it wasn't like things were going that great, anyways. I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't think he's that much of a buy low. People are down like me. I'm down on him. So maybe, just maybe, if he turns it around, there's still the upside. He's in the Chiefs offense. So there is always upside for any usable piece in the Chiefs offense. But like as you say, there's some risk, but owners are shaky on him. You can go get him. Like, yeah, you could go get him, but I'm not sprinting out. I'm not sprinting to go get this guy. I know
the Wolf doesn't sprint much these days. There's got to be some real incentive to get this guy sprinting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jesus. That would be an ugly sight, too. My sprint would be more like a laborious, like, old man trying to, like, pedal down the freaking – it's horrible. I don't even know what I'm comparing it to, but, yeah. And Aiden Tobin, I'm trading – so he's confirming he's trying to get those guys. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were completely insane.
Yeah, I think
yeah, okay.
You do what you have to do to get those guys in the playoffs. And if you can somehow pair him with Kelsey too, whew,
yeah, absolutely.
Ridiculous.
Thanks for clarifying.
Wolfpack, thank you so much. As always, an absolute pleasure to have you guys here to answer your questions and to go over that strength of schedule stuff. If you know, if you want to find us at rosestreetjournal.com, we breed and feed fantasy wolves. We have articles on strength of schedule. We have my rest of season big board. You can hit me up personally at RotoStreetWolf. If you have any questions for last minute trades you're trying to get through, I will be live tomorrow with my big my rankings update, our Thursday night football kickoff. They've gotten pretty hammered. Denny Jennings and me have enjoyed some beers together on these from a virtual distance. And yeah, we've gotten pretty messed up on a couple of these, which is fun. So yeah, come on, join us for the rankings update tomorrow, the Thursday night football kickoff. And then I'll be live for DFS on Friday before the Sunday tailgate, where we hit all your set starts. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. You listen to the podcast, The Fantasy Fullback Dive. We pave your path to 2020 titles. Thank you so much for listening there. Reviews and subscriptions on the pod and on YouTube mean the world to us. We're like 5, I think we're 7 or 8 away from 1,000 on YouTube. So even if you don't use YouTube and you want to just help the boys out,
get under your mom's username and subscribe.
Exactly. Get us to 1,000, baby. But thanks again, guys, so much. I'll see you guys later this weekend or later this week. I, of course, am the Wolf.
I'm the Truth.
Later, guys.
See ya.